The new subsidiary legislation under the Domestic National Security Law is given the green light after a 5-hour special meeting at the Legislative Council. The Consumer Council warns of burn risks after testing on 24 non-stick frying pans, among other issues. And Beijing says it will maintain communication with Washington in accordance with a consensus reached at the U.S.-China high-level economic and trade talks. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Jeremy Zhu. The Legislative Council Subcommittee has completed negative vetting of 2 subsidiary legislation under the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance, using about 5 hours. Authorities said the government has responsibility to aid the Office for Safeguarding National Security in assessing the need to exercise jurisdiction. Lawmakers also scrutinized actions violating the law, particularly regarding the 6 prohibited places, and raised human rights concerns regarding OSNS jurisdiction over national security cases. Cheryl Yun reports.
The same 15 legislators who approved Article 23 last year convened to review the subsidiary laws 2 hours after the House committee approved a special meeting this morning. They examined violations related to prohibited places occupied by the Office for Safeguarding National Security.
如果真係一個市民純粹影相影到公署，係咪唔會犯法呢？
Lawmaker Kit Sun Yang questioned whether taking photos near these zones would constitute a violation, noting their proximity to two schools.
入邊都係牽涉一個意圖嘅。
Security Chief Chris Tang clarified that intention determines unlawful acts, such as deliberate espionage in prohibited areas. He noted that passing by or taking photos outside these zones do not indicate ill intent, and confirmed that signs will be installed to prevent accidental student entry.
If I
cross the line to retrieve a dropped $5 coin, would that be unlawful? The government should clarify this. Lawmaker Gary Chen further probed. Secretary for Justice Paul Lam reiterated that actions must first involve intent to be unlawful, adding that anyone acting in accordance with on-site instructions have nothing to worry about. Other lawmakers raised concerns about the protection of basic human rights. Lawmaker Chen Siu-hong asked whether arrestees, suspects and defendants under OSNS jurisdiction enjoy the same human rights and procedural safeguards as those in Hong Kong's legal framework. Lam explained that despite differences between mainland and Hong Kong legal systems, the presumption of innocence, right to defense, and protection against self-incrimination are embedded in the criminal procedure law. The subsidiary laws, effective since Tuesday, were gazetted under negative vetting, meaning they take effect before lawmakers' approval. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
Secretary for Justice Paul Lam has described the completion of the negative vetting on 2 subsidiary laws as demonstrating the executive and legislative branches' fulfillment of their constitutional duties in perfecting the national security legal framework.
Lam reiterated that both legally and practically it was essential to complete the legislative process promptly to ensure legal certainty. He noted that the deliberation process lasted over 5 hours, with more than 150 questions and comments from legislators, demonstrating the thoroughness and rigor of the procedure while addressing public concerns. The Justice Chief emphasized the subsidiary laws merely provide more detailed and clearer provisions for the national security law to enhance its operability without expanding any powers. He stressed the laws fully comply with human rights protections under the Basic Law.
Contrary to popular belief, the most expensive non-stick pans do not always perform better. The Consumer Council has found, highlighting the importance of coating material and durability over price when choosing frying pans. Evelyn Bai shares more.
The consumer watchdog tested 24 non-stick frying pans with diameters of 26 centimeters or 28 centimeters. The models cost between $90 and $1,750, labeling with 4 types of coating materials, including polytetrafluoroethylene, stone, ceramic, and mesh. Heat conduction speed, heat distribution, coating performance and durability, and handle safety were among the test evaluations. Results show that 2 pans failed the fire test as they did not automatically extinguish within 15 seconds after being set alight, posing potential fire risks. The Council also noted the non-durability of the PTFE coating materials, as 5 out of 8 PTFE coating models showed blistering.
When we see the blisters patterns on the non-stick pan, we would suggest to stop using it because that is our observation, or the non-stick pan, the coating start to detach from the base material, so that it may pose potential health issues.
To test non-stick performance, a key indicator affecting consumer decision in buying the cookware, the watchdog abrased the pan surface 500 times before making pancakes without cooking oil, resulting in 4 test models failing the standard requirements. One model was found to contain trace amounts of potentially cancer-causing substance, but lower than European Union's standard. It is also worth noting that both the most pricey pan at $1,750 and the budget option at $130 received the highest rating. The Council reminded consumers to wash the non-stick pan in warm water with detergent or soak it in hot water overnight before using it for the first time. Avoid using metal spatulas or other metal utensils with non-stick pans to minimize wear on the coating, it added. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
The city has welcomed a total of 3.8 million visitors in April, 13% more than the same period last year, the tourism board said.
According to the preliminary figures, visitor numbers from the mainland, short-haul and long-haul markets all saw double-digit growth last month. Cumulatively, 16 million visitors had set their foot in the city in the first 4 months of the year, marking a 10% year-on-year rise. Multiple key markets showed sustained growth, with arrivals from Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and Indonesia all surging by over 20% compared to last year. Meanwhile, visitor numbers from Australia hiked by more than 30%, reflecting particularly strong growth.
In Beijing, the Ministry of Commerce hailed substantial progress in U.S.-China trade talks in Geneva while urging the U.S. to promptly lift tariff in cars, steel, and aluminium. Meanwhile, Vice Commerce Minister and International Trade Negotiation Representative Li Chenggang has reportedly held bilateral talks with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer in South Korea.
According to South Korea's trade minister, the meeting between China and U.S. took place on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Trade Ministers meeting on the island of Jeju, although he did not elaborate the details. This follows last week's economic talks in Geneva between Vice Premier He Lifeng, Greer, and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Yesterday, both China and the U.S. slashed bilateral tariffs. In addition, China's Commerce Ministry announced a 90-day suspension of plans to add 28 U.S. entities to its export control list and 17 others to its unreliable entities list.
Russia and Ukraine are expected to hold rare direct talks in Turkey later today, aimed at ending the war. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has said he does not rule out traveling to Turkey to participate in the discussions.
So we're going to see if we can end that. I was thinking about going, but it's very tough because of what we're doing today and tomorrow. But, you know, if something happened, I'd go on Friday if it was appropriate. But we have people right now negotiating, and I think that I just hope that Russia and Ukraine are able to do something, because it has to stop.
The negotiations are set to take place at the Turkish presidential office, the same location used during peace talks 3 years ago. Russian President Vladimir Putin said he will not be attending, with Moscow instead sending an 8-member team led by his aide Vladimir Medinsky and Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Fomin. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has also arrived in Istanbul for a meeting with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He has made it clear he will only meet with the Russian delegation if Putin personally attends the negotiations.
Let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day down 187 points. Top active stocks of the day: Tencent was down $1, Alibaba was down $1.50, Meituan was down $4, and BYD was up $5.80. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar: Euro 8.73, Australian dollar 5.00. An intergovernmental grouping of 21 economies, including the United States and China, warned that their collective growth risks a sharp slowdown as tariff tensions and policy uncertainty weigh on investment and trade. Evelyn Bai reports.
Witnessing an environment not conducive to trade due to tariffs hikes, retaliatory measures that hinder free trade, and the proliferation of non-tariff barriers, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, at a meeting in South Korea, forecast the bloc's economic growth to drop to 2.6% in 2025, from 3.3% in the prior year, while growth projection for 2026 has been slashed to 2.7%. In addition, it cut its global growth estimates this year to 2.9%, down from 3.3%, while forecast for 2026 was slashed to 3.3%. The bloc also estimated exports in the region will only grow by 0.4% this year, a sharp slowdown from last year's growth of 5.7%. The import volume is expected to rise by merely 0.1% compared with 4.3% last year. The APEC also predicted in his report that general government debt across APEC will hit 110% of the gross domestic product by 2030. To navigate uncertainty, the APEC stressed this is the time to double down on cooperation, expanding into new markets and improving transparency of trade rules and procedures. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
On to the weather now. Becoming cloudy with 1 or 2 showers tomorrow. It will be hot with sunny periods during the day. Temperatures will range from 26 degrees to 32 degrees. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our news tonight. I'm Jeremy Zhu. Thank you for watching and good night.